In 1947, a man who had never set foot in India was given just 5 weeks to redraw the map of South Asia. He was handed outdated census data, incomplete maps, and a deadline that would determine the fate of nearly 400 million people. His name was Sir Cyril Radcliffe, and the line he drew would become one of the most dangerous borders on Earth. That single line would divide India and Pakistan, ignite one of the largest migrations in human history, trigger multiple wars, and eventually place 3 nuclear powers face to face in the mountains of Asia. One border, 3 nuclear rivals, and a region that has never truly known lasting stability since. This is the story of how a hurried decision at the end of empire reshaped the geopolitics of the modern world. By the mid-20th century, the British Empire had ruled the Indian subcontinent for nearly 2 centuries, but after World War II, Britain was economically exhausted and politically pressured to leave. The demand for independence had become unstoppable. Yet independence brought a dilemma. The land was religiously and culturally diverse. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and many other communities lived interwoven across provinces. Meanwhile, the demand for a separate Muslim homeland had grown stronger under the leadership of the Muslim League. Communal violence was escalating. The proposed solution was partition. 2 new nations would be created, India and Pakistan. But drawing a border across a subcontinent is not like drawing a line across paper. It means dividing farms, dividing railways, dividing rivers, dividing families. And that task fell to one man who had never seen the land he was dividing. The Radcliffe Line sliced through Punjab in the west and Bengal in the east. Villages that had existed for centuries suddenly found themselves in different countries. Communities that had shared markets, marriages, and memories were separated overnight. When the borders were officially announced in August 1947, after independence had already been declared, chaos erupted. An estimated 14 to 15 million people were displaced. Hindus and Sikhs fled toward India. Muslims fled toward Pakistan. Caravans of refugees stretched for miles across dusty roads. Trains arrived at stations filled with families seeking safety, and sometimes filled only with the dead. Up to 1 million people are believed to have died in the violence. Partition was not just a political event, it was a human catastrophe. But amid the bloodshed and migration, one region became the epicenter of a conflict that still shapes global politics today. Kashmir was not directly governed by the British. It was a princely state, ruled by a Hindu monarch, Maharaja Hari Singh, while the majority of its population was Muslim. At the moment of partition, princely states were given a choice: join India or join Pakistan. The Maharaja hesitated. He sought independence. But in October 1947, armed tribal fighters from Pakistan's side entered Kashmir. Facing invasion, the Maharaja turned to India for military support. In exchange, he signed the Instrument of Accession, formally joining India. Pakistan rejected the move. War followed almost immediately. The First Indo-Pakistani War ended in 1948 with a United Nations brokered ceasefire. Kashmir was divided along what became known as the Line of Control. But this was not peace. It was a pause, a frozen conflict. And frozen conflicts rarely stay frozen forever. Chapter 4: The Northern Frontier and China. While India and Pakistan were locked in dispute, another border problem was quietly emerging to the northeast. Decades before partition, in 1914, British officials had drawn the McMahon Line between British India and Tibet. China never accepted this boundary. When the People's Republic of China was established in 1949, it inherited these unresolved claims. For years, tensions simmered along the Himalayan frontier. Then, in 1962, India and China went to war. The conflict was brief, but decisive. Chinese forces advanced rapidly across high-altitude terrain, exposing India's military vulnerabilities. When the war ended, China retained control of Aksai Chin, a strategic plateau claimed by India. The border was never fully settled. It remains disputed today. Now look at the map. India, Pakistan, China. Three massive nations meeting in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The Himalayas, the Karakoram, the Siachen Glacier. These are not empty mountains. They control the headwaters of major river systems. The Indus River begins in this region and flows into Pakistan, sustaining tens of millions of people. In South Asia, water is not simply a resource, it is survival. In 1960, India and Pakistan signed the Indus Waters Treaty to regulate river sharing. Despite wars and crises, the treaty has endured. But distrust has never disappeared. Each side fears the other could use water as leverage. The geography magnifies every dispute. Mountain passes become strategic choke points. Glaciers become military positions. Altitude becomes advantage. At the Siachen Glacier, the highest battlefield on Earth, soldiers endured temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius, not fighting for cities, not fighting for oil, but fighting for elevation and control. Then came the nuclear age. China tested its first nuclear weapon in 1964. India followed in 1974, declaring itself a nuclear power. Pakistan responded in 1998 with its own nuclear tests. Three nuclear-armed states, all connected by disputed borders shaped by colonial-era decisions. Since 1947, India and Pakistan have fought three major wars: 1947 to 48 over Kashmir, 1965 again over Kashmir, 1971, which led to the creation of Bangladesh. Beyond these wars, there have been countless skirmishes, artillery exchanges, and standoffs. The line of control is now one of the most heavily militarized borders in the world. The presence of nuclear weapons changes everything. It creates deterrence, discouraging full-scale war, but it also creates constant risk. One miscalculation, one misunderstanding, one misread troop movement along a mountain ridge, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Tensions between India and China remain unresolved. In 2020, clashes erupted in the Galwan Valley in Ladakh. Soldiers fought in brutal hand-to-hand combat at high altitude. Firearms were not used due to prior agreements, but men still died, because the line remains undefined. Ambiguous borders create ambiguity in power, and ambiguity between nuclear states is inherently dangerous. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative runs through disputed territory in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. India views it as a violation of sovereignty. China sees it as strategic connectivity. Pakistan sees it as an economic lifeline. Every road becomes political. Every tunnel becomes strategic. Every bridge becomes a statement. The border drawn in 1947 did more than divide land. It divided narratives. In India, Kashmir is viewed as an integral part of the nation. In Pakistan, it is seen as unfinished business of partition. In China, certain territories are framed as historically linked to Chinese sovereignty. Three national identities, three strategic doctrines, one overlapping geography. When borders are drawn in haste, geography does not adapt.
Mountains do not shift for political deadlines. Rivers do not reroute for imperial convenience. But once a line hardens,